What's up, guys? My name is Kyle Kringen. I'm from Kringen Performance. I'm a former collegiate starting pitcher for Marymount California University. I help pitchers all around the world throw harder and become overall better athletes, all remotely. In the last video, I talked about how to throw 90 miles an hour and broke it up into 4 different quadrants. The first one being strength training, how frequently we should be doing that strength training. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how exactly we should be structuring that training throughout the training week. And overall, what's the frequency of what we should be doing and what should we be doing as pitchers for our training? How frequently should we be doing our strength work? And by strength work, I'm talking about deliberate days to increase total and overall strength. That looks like doing your heavy, big compound lifts. So your, for example, bench presses or deadlifts, reverse lunges, big movements that require several muscle groups to perform the movement. So how frequently should we be doing that? The first thing to note is that strength training is very taxing, especially when you're going very heavy. It's taxing on the CNS, the central nervous system, and it takes a little bit to recover from. So because we are not powerlifters, and the goal of training is to throw harder, because we have an entirely different thing that we have to be focusing on. We have to also throw baseballs here. We're not just living inside the gym like powerlifters and just trying to move the most weight. We have a purpose and an intent of why we do strength training. So we only need to be really doing deliberate strength training 2 to 3 times per week. That doesn't mean you can't do other things in the week, because we will get more into what those other things look like, but 2 to 3 times a week for your actual general and your specific strength training. So general, talking about your bench presses, your squats, your very general lifts, versus your pitcher specific lifts. So you can throw that all under the umbrella of 2 to 3 times. So how about your power work, your speed work, your lighter weight movements that you perform extremely quickly to get the adaptation, the neural adaptation that tells your body to get better at moving quickly. So because strength work is generally done pretty slowly, because you're moving a lot of weight as powerfully as you can, but because it's super heavy, it's going slowly, that does not send the adaptation to move quickly. So we also need to be doing deliberate power work at least 1 time a week, 1 to 3 times a week. Mobility work is the next part of it. So how frequently should we be doing mobility as pitchers? Well, there's absolutely no reason not to be doing mobility work on a daily basis. And because we want good mobility as pitchers, and the act of throwing itself and the act of strength training itself gets us really tight in certain positions, it's kind of a necessary thing to be doing it on a daily basis anyway, to just, at the very least, maintain a base level of mobility. If you were trying to deliberately get better at mobility, meaning you're not doing it just to maintain, but you're also doing specific things to increase your range of motion at a specific joint, then we want deliberate days for that as well. So that's where you could be in the gym pretty much every single day if you wanted to, if you made time for it, and you can focus deliberately on just mobility and prehab exercises without doing any power or strength work. You could just go into the gym, you can do a bunch of mobility work and call it a day. And that's a quality gym session, in my opinion. Conditioning. How frequently and what conditioning should we even be doing? So there's 2 types of conditioning that we want to focus on. There's your aerobic, which is more oxidative, slow, long duration, long distance running or biking that's very slow, conversational pace. And then you have your anaerobic, which is going to be super, super important, because that's actually the thing that is going to drive the adaptation to get stronger and have more fast twitch type 2 muscle fibers that are going to translate to the pitching motion, because it's done just like that. 1 second, it's relax, 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 and then everything is super quick. So we need to be doing deliberate anaerobic conditioning work to get better at the pitching motion. This can be done 2 to 4 times per week. And that can even be on the same days as your strength and power work. And it's just really about how you want to properly manipulate those variables. So if you are, for example, doing a power day, power days don't have to take a whole lot of time, but this goes hand in hand with your anaerobic exercising, your anaerobic conditioning. So there's no reason why we can't pair those two together because all of it is under the same umbrella of trying to move super quickly. Your aerobic work, why not do it on a strength day? What I will say about this, and I can do a longer video about this topic as well, but your aerobic conditioning should never be in the same session as your strength work, because then you're going to be telling the brain to get better at both strength and aerobic conditioning, and it's going to make both those adaptations weaker overall. So you're not going to get quite as good at strength and you're not going to get quite as good at conditioning. So if you are going to, let's just say, combine your aerobic and your strength work on the same day just because you feel like it, then separate them hours apart from each other. That way your body can rest, recover, and then go and get the full adaptation from either or. Skill work and throwing. This comes along with the time of the season. So there's no reason, same as mobility, that you can't just go and do daily skill work that doesn't tax the body in any way. It's more so drilling in certain positions, getting better at the actual pitching motion without throwing a baseball. That can be done daily. The actual throwing, though, we want to manipulate the volume and the intensity depending on the time of year. Fall, for example, you're in the preseason, right? And we're not in the spring yet. The volume isn't going to be crazy high, but we're ramping it up because in season, we're going to be throwing quite a bit. So in the fall, we want to slowly and gradually increase that volume. The intensity should be varied throughout the week because you're probably going to be practicing several times a week at least. And the intensity, you don't want to go balls to the wall throwing as hard as you can every single day. You're going to have what they call a velo day where the intensity is going to be high, the same way we don't have strength work done every single day. The intensity of the throwing is also going to be manipulated. So you want to be throwing high intensity 1, maybe 2 times a week. But again, we're ramping up slowly and gradually because we're trying to avoid injury. So all of these things are very important when you're structuring your training week. And if you're trying to throw 90 miles an hour, it should all be done very meticulously and intentionally. That pretty much covers everything. I'll see you in the next video.